I want you to run a simulation for me, just for a moment. You wake up tomorrow morning. You can hear the birds outside. You see the sunlight hitting the wall.
Okay.
You hear your family talking in the next room, maybe, I don't know, discussing what to have for breakfast. You are completely 100% conscious. Your mind is exactly as sharp as it is right now.
Right, I'm picturing it.
But then you try to get out of bed, and nothing happens. You try to call out to them, and no sound comes out. You are screaming on the inside, fully aware, but to the rest of the world.
You're an object.
You're a statue, an empty shell.
It's the ultimate claustrophobia, the concept of being buried alive, except the coffin is your own body.
Exactly. Now, for most of us, that's a horror movie script. But for the subject of today's deep dive, that wasn't a movie. It was a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And every single day for over a decade.
We are, of course, talking about the case of Martin Pistorius.
We are. It is February 2026, and we have a massive stack of sources to get through today. We've got his autobiography, Ghost Boy, medical literature on his neurological collapse, the analysis of that recent 2025 documentary directed by Rodney Asher.
And some very new, very interesting 2026 reports on where AI and neural interfaces are taking this whole field.
And the mission here isn't just to retell a biography. Looking at these sources, Martin's story it's really a technical roadmap.
It is. It shows us the evolution of how we interface with the human mind, from simple picture boards all the way up to the generative AI systems we're seeing today.
Right. We're exploring the anatomy of what he calls the invisible man. How does someone go from being treated like a potted plant, literally, to becoming a first-class honors computer scientist?
Yeah.
And what does his resilience tell us about the human will?
It's a transition from silence to science. And frankly, looking at these medical files, it really shouldn't have been possible.
So let's start there. The medical context. We have to go back to 1988, Johannesburg, South Africa. Martin is 12, a totally normal kid. He comes home from school complaining of a sore throat.
It started that innocuously. A sore throat, headache, loss of appetite, standard flu symptoms.
Yeah.
But the progression described in the medical reports is terrifyingly rapid.
Rapid how?
We're talking about a complete neurological collapse within just months.
What was actually happening inside him? Because the doctors were baffled for a long time.
Yeah, they were. Eventually, the files indicate he tested positive for two very aggressive conditions. Cryptococcal meningitis and brain tuberculosis.
Brain tuberculosis? I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's rare, and it is devastating. Essentially, these infections caused this widespread catastrophic inflammation throughout his central nervous system.
So, like a fire.
Think of it like a wildfire burning down the telephone lines. The communication pathways between his cognitive center, his self, and his motor cortex were just severed.
So the brain is there, but the wires to the muscles are cut.
Eventually, yes. But initially, he did lose consciousness. He slipped into a vegetative state. He lost the ability to speak, then move, then make eye contact. The doctors told his parents, that's it.
The prognosis in the notes is incredibly bleak. They said he had the cognitive function of an infant.
Correct. They told his parents to take him home to die. They said he was a vegetable. And for a few years, technically, he was unresponsive. But, and this is the terrifying variable, the brain is plastic.
It can heal itself.
It heals in ways we don't always expect. And this is what leads into the Ghost Boy phase. The sources say this started around 1992.
Yeah, about 4 years after the initial onset.
He calls it the hidden phase. Martin describes his consciousness returning like an out-of-focus image slowly sharpening. First, he recognized voices. Then, he understood time.
And by the time he was 16, he was aware. By 19, fully awake.
Fully awake, but still completely paralyzed.
Locked-in syndrome.
Total sensory input, zero motor output. He could see everything. He could hear everything. But he couldn't twitch a finger to signal any of it.
I just can't process the psychological toll of that. You're a teenager. You're hearing your parents cry over you. You're watching cartoons you hate because you can't change the channel.
He mentions the cartoon specifically. Barney the dinosaur. He grew to hate Barney because he was forced to watch it for hours and hours on end.
Oh my God.
But it gets much darker than boredom. Because he was perceived as an object, he became invisible.
The potted plant analogy.
That's the phrase used in the sources. When people assume you aren't there, they stop filtering their behavior. He witnessed people having private conversations right in front of him. But he suffered abuse.
The reports mention physical and sexual abuse during his time in care centers.
Yes. It highlights a horrific reality about the vulnerability of non-communicative patients. If a patient cannot scream, cannot point, cannot tell a single soul, well, The predator has perfect cover.
And he's just absorbing all of this trauma, years of it, with literally no outlet.
None.
How did he not go insane? I mean, that literally, how does the mind stay intact under that kind of pressure?
The documentary analysis gives us a clue here. He used his imagination as a survival mechanism. He describes escaping into his own mind.
Like what?
He would visualize himself as Tiny climbing into a spaceship, flying away. Or he would just observe the movement of sunlight across the ring to tell time. He had to curate his own reality to survive the existential pain of being invisible.
So he is trapped in this state for over a decade. It's now 2001. He's about 25 years old. And then we have the Verna effect. Who is Verna Vanderwalt?
She is the catalyst.
Hmm.
Verna was a relief caregiver at his care center. She wasn't a neurologist. She wasn't a specialist. She was an aromatherapist.
An aromatherapist.
Yes, but she did something the doctors hadn't done in years.
She paid attention.
She paid attention to his eyes. She noticed a specific glimmer, a subtle responsiveness.
Yeah.
When she talked to him, she felt he was tracking her. He contradicted the medical consensus that he was empty inside.
It's wild that it took an aromatherapist to challenge years of medical dogma.
It's often the people spending the most time with the patient who notice the microsignals. She insisted he be tested. Because of her push, he was sent to the Center for Augmentative and Alternative Communication, the CAC at the University of Pretoria.
And that assessment, that's the moment the wall comes down.
It was the moment of validation. They used eye tracking tests to see if he could identify objects. Look at the ball, look at the dog.
And he did.
He did.
Can you imagine the room in that moment, the parents realizing he's been here the whole time?
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Massive relief, but also this crushing realization of what he had endured alone.
So now they have a new problem. Proving he is aware is step one. Step two is, how do you talk? He hasn't used language in 13 years.
And his body is still paralyzed. So they didn't just plug him into a supercomputer immediately.
Right.
No. And this is important for understanding AAC, augmentative and alternative communication. You have to build the cognitive pathways back up. They started low-tech.
Like paper and plastic.
Exactly. Symbols and pictograms. A picture of a smiling face meant, I'm okay. A picture of a plate meant, I'm hungry.
It sounds so rudimentary, but for him, after all that time, that must have been intoxicating.
It was agency. For the first time in his adult life, he could influence his environment. If you pointed to a drink, someone gave him a drink. That feedback loop is crucial for the brain to start rewiring itself for communication.
But Martin's mind was sharp. He was an adult man. He needed more than just, I'm hungry.
He needed words. This brings us to the software revolution. The sources highlight the Grid 2 and later Grid 3. This is software that integrates text-to-speech, TTS, and word prediction.
Okay, let's get technical for a second. How is he controlling this? He can't type.
This is where the hardware innovation comes in. Over the years, he used a few setups. The most significant was a head mouse.
How does that work?
It uses optical sensors or gyroscopes, often a little reflective dot placed on his forehead or his glasses. A camera tracks that tiny dot.
Ah.
So if Martin tilts his head millimeter to the left, the cursor on the screen moves left.
So he's drawing with his nose, essentially.
Basically. And for clicking, he didn't have the finger strength, so he used puff switch systems, using his breath, or later, just dwelling on a letter to select it.
That sounds incredibly slow.
It is agonizingly slow. In the beginning, it took him hours to construct a single sentence. Imagine the physical stamina required. You are fighting your own atrophied muscles to drag a cursor across a screen, letter by letter. To write hello requires 5 precise physical movements.
And yet, the man wrote a book.
Ghost Boy. 190,000 words, written largely with a head mouse and switch systems.
That's not just communication. That is an act of athletic endurance.
It is, and it brings us to the most surprising part of this whole dossier. He didn't stop at just being a user of this tech. He decided to master it.
He went to college.
He went to college.
I love this pivot. He enters the University of Hertfordshire to study computer science.
And not just to, audit classes. He earned a BSc honors, first-class honors. He graduated in 2013.
I want to pause on that. The guy they said had the mind of an infant is now graduating with top honors in computer science. How did he even manage the workload?
He leveraged his unique situation. He understood the interface better than anyone. In fact, his graduation project was a customized voice interface.
He built a better one.
He used his own experience to build a better keyboard and screen interface to make communication faster for other people.
So he transitions from patient to pioneer.
Precisely. He founded his own web development firm. He became a consultant for WebAM.
WebAIM is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines group, right?
Yes. They set the standards for how the internet should be built for people with disabilities. So Martin wasn't just surviving, he was contributing to the global economy and the technological landscape. He positioned technology as an instrument of liberation
It really shifts the narrative. He's not a tragedy, he's a tech leader.
and a cultural icon. The book was a New York Times bestseller, translated into 30 languages. But I want to talk about the 2025 documentary Ghost Boy, directed by Rodney Asher.
This film won the Audience Award at SXSW. The notes mention it uses dream logic. What does that mean in a documentary context?
Well, think about the challenge. How do you film the life of someone who couldn't move for 10 years? You can't just show a guy lying in bed for 2 hours.
Right.
That's not the story. The story is what was happening inside.
So they visualize the spaceships and the escape fantasies.
Exactly. Asher used creative visual effects to recreate Martin's mental escapes. It validates that those internal worlds were real. And the narration is key. It's all done using Martin's actual AAC synthetic voice.
That's a powerful choice. It forces the audience to listen to him on his terms.
It immerses the viewer in his reality. And it contrasts sharply with how other media outlets tell his story. The sources analyze his YouTube strategy.
Oh, the comparison between the different channels.
Right. You have channels like Special Books by Special Kids or SBSK. They sit on the floor with him. The camera is close. It's about raw empathy. Then you have Goalcast.
Goalcast is the motivational one. Emotional music, bold text overlay.
Everyone thought he was brain dead. It's designed for clicks and inspiration porn. And then there's TED, which frames him as an intellectual authority.
And his story fits all of them.
It does, but looking at them side by side shows us how society struggles to categorize disability. Are we supposed to pity him, be inspired by him, or learn from him?
Hopefully by 2026, the answer is learn from him.
Which brings us to the present day, February 2026. The tech Martin used to write his book, The Head Mouse. The word prediction, that's starting to look a bit vintage compared to what's happening right now with AI.
We need to talk about generative AI. Martin has been very vocal about this shift. How does an LLM, a large language model like ChatGPT or Gemini, change life for an AAC user?
It changes the fundamental unit of communication.
Well,
Old systems were predictive based on frequency. If you
Yeah.
typed, I want to eat, it might suggest apple, because that's a common word.
right. Simple prediction.
Generative AI predicts intent. It understands the context of the conversation. If Martin is in a meeting about web accessibility and he types the code, the AI knows he probably wants to say, the code needs to be compliant with WCAG 2.1, not the code is red.
So it moves from spelling to conducting.
That's a beautiful way to put it. He becomes the conductor of the sentence rather than the bricklayer. It revolutionizes speed. But the hardware is changing too. We're moving away from the head mouse entirely.
Brain-computer interfaces. BCI, like Neuralink.
This is the frontier, direct brain-to-digital signals. The goal is to bypass the muscles entirely.
So no eye tracking, no head tilting.
None. The technology reads the electrical spikes in the motor cortex, the intention to speak, and converts that immediately into digital text or speech.
That would theoretically eliminate the ghost boy risk entirely, wouldn't it? If we can tap directly into the brain, no one can be locked in without us knowing.
In theory, yes. It could make communication instantaneous. It closes the loop. But Martin raises a vital point here in the 2026 reports. It's not just about speed or bandwidth.
The ethics of access.
The ethics of humanity. On his 50th birthday, he emphasized a core principle: approaching everyone with dignity and respect. As we build these Neuralinks, we can't just view these patients as data sources to be mined.
Because if you treat them as data points, you're right back to treating them like potted plants.
Exactly. Technology is the tool, but dignity is the protocol. If you don't have the dignity part, the technology just becomes another form of management, not liberation.
It's funny, isn't it? We started this deep dive talking about terrifying isolation, the most lonely experience a human can have. But we're ending on this note about technology connecting us more deeply than ever.
It is hopeful. Martin Pistorius represents the ultimate victory of resilience over biological impossibility. He went from a diagnosis of vegetative to a global advocate.
So having looked at the medical history, the tech, the book, what is the big takeaway for you?
For me, it redefines what we mean by voice. We usually think of voice as sound, vibrations in the air coming from a larynx. But looking at Martin's life, voice is actually will. It is the sheer, stubborn determination to be heard. Technology is just the amplifier. The voice was always there.
It makes you wonder, truly.
What stands out to you?
It's that initial image, the invisible man. In a world where AI and human minds are merging, we're seeing that right now, it raises a question for everyone listening. How many other invisible people are out there? How many people are we missing simply because we haven't looked closely enough at their eyes to see that spark?
That is the question we should all be asking.
That's all for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.